Hey yo. Hello, Mark. How
Hello,
are you this
Marcus.
morning?
Yeah, well, afternoon for me, but I'm having a good day. Nice afternoon on this side of the world.
Yeah,
Yeah,
another Friday, another end of our week.
yeah.
A wonderful
Another
writing.
opportunity to have a meaningful conversation
Well, I was
about
just about
our
to
favorite
say
project.
we had one yesterday. Um, we made some forward progress on this, so I guess it's a second meaningful conversation, right?
It is, yeah, and it's so beautiful how these deep dives into the chapters are giving
Mm-hmm.
us a lot of new insight and inspiration for the tweaks on the book, right? Because there's an advanced reader copy available, which is available for download with a link there. But in
Mm-hmm.
parallel, there's some refining of the storyline that's taking place, and that's really fun to be in that process as well. Again, Marcus,
Well,
and I do find that these conversations are very helpful to go deeper and to sense more into where can we bring out a little bit more of the depth of the character, a bit more um, tension in the storyline, perhaps. So
I'll say like this. I'll get really philosophical with you if you allow. Anybody in business, anybody in life, you're approaching life, you're taking action from your beliefs, and you really don't know what you believe until you rub it up against something, another belief, a contrarian belief. And that's what you do with your IP, intellectual property. When you publish it, publicare means to make public. And that's when the exposure of light, winds, the elements, they are critical towards your IP. And you refine your IP and you get to really understand, oh, this is what I believe, or
yeah,
this is who I really am. And that's what we're doing with this podcast. We did it in private for a while. Um, I've done my fair share of podcasts. You've done your fair share of podcasts. And then we said, hey, let's pull it out here. Let's expose it, make it public, RA, make it public. And yeah, that's what we're doing. It's
mm, absolutely,
always good to be on the journey with you.
absolutely. And so, what do we have in store today?
Boom.
Chapter 13, right?
Chapter 13. Decisions, choices, and an acorn's promise. All right.
What's
So,
an acorn's promise?
well, an acorn is full as an acorn, yet it has the potential to grow into an oak. So there's
Ah,
potential within, and again, it's the whole concept of what's inside and what's coming forth. And the kids, they always sit beneath an acorn tree, but then there's a small token that Amar leaves with them in the next chapter. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, an acorn's promise.
yeah,
Boom.
potential, the potential in a seed.
A potential, a promise, a possibility. So in this chapter, actually, we're going to focus on the work aspect of it because Amar faces backlash from the administration. What is the conversation that's happening in tertiary education, universities, colleges, technical schools? But then there's a changing of the guard, as you said, to use your words. But actually, what is the faculty saying? Like, how are people talking amongst themselves of their role in education, who they are, their identity wrapped up inside these institutes? And Amar has some strong beliefs, strong views, and he has to not defend those views and principles and values, but he has to make a choice when he faces some pushback by the university.
Yeah, he's basically given it an ultimatum, right? So,
Well,
the dean,
mm-hmm,
um, meets him, comes to his office the day after this salon where one of the donors was showing up. So we discussed that last week, and basically tells Amar that it's important for him to get back, to not shake things up so much, to not rock the boat that much, because it's causing um, some issues internally.
Mm-hmm.
And so he, kindly invites Amar to go back to doing things the way we've always done things.
Mm-hmm.
And, and if he doesn't do that, then, there can be consequences. So it's basically sort of put up like that. And it's left Amar, reflecting within himself, like, what is really important? What are truly my values? What do I really believe in? And do I want to compromise on that? Right? And
Mm-hmm.
am I willing to assume the consequences of perhaps losing my post here at the university?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think this is really a very important message that a lot of people feel when they're pushed into a certain direction that is not aligned with their inner voice, right? What's important to them, their values, their core values. And how do you manage that?
Yeah. That this is actually what we were talking about at the top of the show. It's only when you're out of alignment that you really understand what you want to align to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why I see conflict as a healthy part of growth, or it is part of the growth process.
Yeah.
And when I say conflict, um, there are varying degrees of it, right? Nothing's binary on or off, but there is tension, intention, and then a breaking of that tension. How do you talk to yourself through it? How do you see your agency in all of it? How do you bring
Mm.
about, how do you see the opposite side as a creative force in
Mm.
your creation, right?
Mm.
Because personally, there's this personal belief. I'm not against anything in this life, in this world.
Mm.
I'm in alignment, or what's the opposite of alignment? Disalignment, unalignment,
Misalignment.
misalignment. Thank you. um, and it's only when I understand. Oh yeah, that's not me. I
Yeah.
can say, I am.
Yes.
I am this.
Yes. Yeah.
When you said he was given an ultimatum, the reason I smiled is because Amar is a very wise person, and he comes to that decision on his own volition. It, it it's not like the university says you do this or else, but rather the
True.
university says, hey, these are our boundaries, and healthy
Yeah.
people have boundaries. And Amar was like, well, yeah, this is my boundary, and I've made this decision.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I love that, actually. When we feel misalignment, it helps us know ourselves better, right? Because it forces us to check in. Something doesn't feel right. That's
Mm-hmm.
the initial sensation, right? And maybe it's physically our body is not feeling well. We have, headaches, stomach aches, something physically is off.
Mm.
And if we can then listen to that, not try to ignore it or push it away, but to listen to our body, it will tell us something that is, I think, really important. And often it will come down to whatever energy is coming your way, whatever message or thing that's coming your way is somehow not resonating at that same frequency as your core is resonating at or wants to resonate at, and that's causing a disturbance. um, and I think that is something that is such an important part of our personal development journey, or at least mine, is to be able to listen to the physical signs my body is telling me, because it's constantly speaking. And I think the physical realm, or the physical body, can pick up on very subtle energies, and will quickly sort of parse through the ones that are resonating at the same frequency, and be in misalignment with the ones that aren't. And that can show up in very
I,
concrete ways.
I yes to all of that. If I may give a little bit more meat to your words, and I'll say it in a very psychological sense, and then a very spiritual sense for those who it resonates with. Um, Psychologically, like, oh man, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but Dan Siegel. He says when you in your internal state feel seen, soothed, secure, and safe. So when you feel stress here, your identity, and it's just like, okay, if you know all those things are okay, I can expand into it. That's why we know or know thyself. When we can look into the outside world and we feel safe, seen, secure. Seen means understood. There are times you and I have conflict, if you will, or tension when we're writing. But and when I say that, it's not, I'm never angry at you, but we have misalignments of our desires for what goes inside the passage. But we always know there's respect and dignity on each side of this camera. And that's the
Mm.
beauty of our collaboration,
Mm.
right? I mean, I
Yeah.
can only speak for myself.
No, no, I totally agree. I mean,
I know.
and it wouldn't be right if we were agreeing on everything very quickly. It's in the, in honoring our own voice and voicing that
Hmm.
something new gets created. And we've seen that so many times, right? When you push back on something or I push back on something, we end up in a new place always that I think we both feel like, yeah, we wouldn't have gotten here on our own.
And it's appreciation, apprecio. You're adding value. I see the value of your voice inside this project, and you see the value of my voice. And I know it from the inside out. You know it from the inside out. That's why,
Yeah.
as two individuals, we can come and do this project.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it inside the psychological sense of what were we talking about? Oh, knowing yourself to meet the outside world, doing from your being. In a spiritual sense, coming from the, if you will, Judeo-Christian perspective of fruits of the spirit. If you think the fruits of the spirit of this character lives within you and you find it on the outside, then you're just in alignment with that. And when we speak of the fruit of the spirit, that's actually a concept that is found in all faith traditions. It's just that's how we say it in that's how it's said in Christianity. But all faith traditions have a characteristic of the indwelling of the divine. And if you know that character, you see that character on the outside, and
Yeah.
discernment is a part of that character. So
Yeah.
that's another way to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really
Know
nice.
thyself. Know thyself.
Yeah.
That's why you have to
And
get
if you
into it.
don't know, if you haven't done that work to know yourself, then it's very difficult to get to any insight on, alignment, misalignment. It's very difficult to live in our awareness, right? And to be able to act on it and to utilize that insight. Um, so I think, it all starts with knowing our values, knowing who we are, knowing what's important to us, knowing what our boundaries are. And then we can look at the things around us through that lens and say, yes, this fits, this is resonating. I want to go with this. I want to say yes to this. I want to lean in to this.
Hmm.
We can be much more intentional and proactive. And I think what's happening with Amar is he knows himself well enough, and he knows what's important to him, and he knows what mission and purpose he's on, and he's realizing that now is not the time. And what I love about his decision to step out of the university is that he doesn't leave with any bad feeling. It's a very conscious choice, and it's also one where he's holding the possibility of coming back one day, when there is a readiness, when there is so it's not like you're closing a door and saying never again, this is terrible. He's just saying, well, now my path is elsewhere, and I'm leaving with a lot of gratitude, and I'm leaving with the openness and the possibility that I'll be back here in some form, right, in some way. And I think that that's a very beautiful way in which his relationship with the dean is also um, unfolding, right, in these chapters
Hmm.
now.
Uh, just to rest on that for a little bit and to give context, again, we're talking about in the workplace, making a decision with a larger organization of what you're going to do, right? Hey, you see
Fireworks.
that?
How did you do that? How did you do that?
As Macintosh when you do the thumbs up.
Ah.
So, oh, it froze there. Oh, I guess it wasn't ready. And for those just joining us in the middle, we're talking about our book, Coming Home to Who You Are, Education Reimagined or Re-Enlightened in the Age of AI. Coming of age story of three young people in Europe. They're going to school in Zurich. A young Indian kid, and then third culture kids. Um, you can get an advanced copy here. I botched that advertisement read, but that's all right. You guys understand where it is.
Oh yeah, you do that very well, Marcus. Yeah.
Uh, I was gonna make a point, but I kind of lost it. Where were you gonna go? You're about to say something.
Back from our advertisement. Um, so we'll resume the main show here,
Oh,
and yes,
it came
there you
it came
go.
to mind. Yeah, yeah. We're talking about in the professional setting of setting boundaries and expectations, and you're talking about how Amar can leave with no bad blood, right?
Hmm.
And man, Seth Godin's Song of Significance, we mentioned this earlier this week. You find significance or purpose in your work with number two. First of all, you're seeing yourself expand. That's number one. Number two is there's dignity and respect in the work you do. For you to create a context of dignity and respect, no shaming, no blaming, no complaining. And that's the character by which Amar operates inside all of his dealings.
Mm.
You need to see your agency, extreme ownership.
Mm-hmm.
You're not speaking down to the person across from you,
Mm.
and you're not blaming them for the circumstance. The circumstance is what it is, and different
Mm.
people have contributed to it. But are you doing an honest part for what you want to create?
Yeah. 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 That's definitely a level of maturity that, um, yeah, I think that Amar embodies, and that makes him so appealing to the students, right? That makes him, yeah, somebody that they want to gravitate towards because he is embodying I guess, a higher state of maturity or of consciousness, the way he's responding to these things, and it's his life journey. We don't go into that in the book too much, but we do get a little sense here and there, that he wasn't always like that, right? That it was, um, more impulsive, perhaps. That he has always been somebody very passionate. He's always been somebody that's visionary, that's wants change, or that is championing change and all that. But the
Mm-hmm.
way that he brings it to life, I think he's learned a lot throughout his experience. That
Mm.
not to get emotionally triggered when he gets pushed back, right? To accept things and allow things much more. Uh,
I, I'm thinking about it now. We probably need to write into the book, or I would like to, and I'll float this idea to you now, where Kenna breaks. Like he's challenged by the administration and he has a breaking point. And then Amar can step in as the mentor again to
mhm.
say, hey, I know what you're feeling.
Yeah,
Because that's how he came into that understanding.
yeah,
It's if you know what you want, go for it. But know that it's yours,
yeah,
right? Because I mean, yeah, Amar is not perfect. Amar has come into this understanding through effort.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's make
Okay.
it personal. Like,
Yeah, please.
what do you
Let,
do when your values collide with your profession?
yeah, exactly. It's such a great question. And, I think we both have something to share here.
Mm.
Um, please go ahead and start, Marcus.
Well, I'll read this quote from Amar
Mhm.
first. He says, "My duty is to prepare our students for the future, not preserve an outdated status quo." I shared with you something before this in regards to my copywriting career. There was a time that I was writing for financial markets, and what you do is if you have the tools of creation of communication, you understand why people do what they do, how they do it, and so on. You can turn those dials.
Mm.
I mean, and you're aware of it as it's done to you. So I'm not like there's no glass box around me protecting me from this. Like you see it, but I just saw the pattern again and again of fear. I don't know. I think we communicate either from a place of fear or a place of love, and fear in itself has scarcity attached.
Mm.
You're fear, you're fearing losing status. You're fearing losing resource. You're fearing losing the ability of pleasure, and that's why we aspire or like we want something or like we move because of fear. That didn't sit well with me. That wasn't aligned with my values.
Mm.
And I always want to create from a place of love. And love
Mm.
takes initial action for the well-being of another person. And what love is, it invites you to collaborate. This collaboration has taught me that, or rather, I've seen it more evident as going through this collaboration, as well as other collaborations I'm setting up. It's, hey, I'm doing this. Do you want to work with me? Like, come on. And I think that's what the divine says to us all the time. The divine, I believe, is a force of love, of saying, I am love. I want to create well-being in this world. Do you want to work with me?
Yeah.
In a professional setting, like I believe there can be love in the workplace along with professionalism. It just means taking the initial action of care for the other person. For me, that's it's just like water. It's expressed in different ways, but in different contexts, it's either solid, gas, or liquid. Love is always what is our well-being here? What is our collective well-being?
Yeah.
I've said a lot, but that was my idea there, and I also had this inside the classroom. Um, of my value aligning with the system. Do I want to be in the system or not? But we can
Mm.
get into that after the fact.
Yeah.
What's up? What are you thinking?
No, no, I think it's great. This because it was a big opportunity. I can imagine that that's a big opportunity, right? Is writing content for the financial markets, right? There's a lot of money in it. There's um, maybe status as well. Being a journalist in that sphere. Uh, but I can also see that it can be manipulative is maybe a bit of a big word, but like you say, there are dials, and if you know how to communicate, what to communicate, that you can play with that, and it's to achieve a certain outcome. You want people to act in a certain way,
Mm,
and that action is not always the best thing for that person, right? And as a writer, you perhaps and I think that takes a lot of courage and a lot of knowing what your values are, what's important to you, to be able to say no to an opportunity like that, um, and focus your energy and your efforts in areas that are more aligned.
mm.
Um,
One of the breaking points in it was while I was also doing it. I was transitioning out of the classroom, but I remember during the pandemic, a ninth grader, he was sharing a journal entry. They would share their journals with me, so they would write, and then I'd be able to read it and whatnot. But everybody was experiencing hardship during the pandemic. But I just remember his talking about how his father would come home facing their own financial difficulties or whatnot. And I taught at a prestigious school. I taught at a the kids were affluent, but not all of them. You don't know where prisons is, but I mean it was just he was talking about his father's financial woes and how it was affecting the family.
yeah, yeah,
And I don't know. I just didn't want to contribute to that. It's just like a drug dealer, right? Somebody's going to buy the drugs, but do you have to deal it?
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. And I
it
have a
became
similar.
personal for me. Go on. Yes.
Yeah, I have a similar story actually, and it was not COVID, but it was to 2008. So it goes back quite a while now, but the financial crisis in 2008.
Hmm.
And the company I was working for at the time, um, everyone was under pressure, right? Cost pressure. But the people who were suffering the most were the the consumers, the users of the product. Um, but of course, the raw materials were going up and everything, and there was this big conversation going on about raising the prices, right? So that the company could deliver its profit margin and deliver against the
Mm-hmm.
expectations on Wall Street. And I remember just feeling very, because I was a consumer facing
Mm-hmm.
role, and my job was to really interact with the users of the
Mm-hmm.
products, and I could see firsthand that this crisis was real in their lives, and that every penny counts, and even a 10% increase on the prices would have an impact. And I remember thinking, like, this is not the time to raise prices. Now is the time to buckle down and communicate to Wall Street, like, it's going to take us
Yeah.
a few quarters, right? And we're not going to be able to make our profit margins because we want to do the right thing for the consumer. Um, and I felt very strongly
Mm.
about it, Marcus. Very, very strongly about it. And the company ended up going in a different direction than what was true to me and my values. And that was really, it was a year later. I was, I
Mm.
just that,
Yeah,
there are
sure.
other reasons. That was definitely something that left, uh, you know, um, yeah, it left me feeling um, uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It rubbed you the wrong way. And then that's what conflict
it
is.
rubbed
That's
me
what,
the wrong way.
you know,
Yeah,
I,
but it also, like you said in the beginning, right? It gave me a lot of clarity on who am I, right, and what's important to me, and am I willing to sacrifice, a good job, a good income status, and all of that because of
mhm.
what is real for me, what is true to me, and I think to a certain extent, I'm willing to do that, right? I'm willing to close
Well,
doors. Yeah,
you don't know until you made that decision. And that's what the
yeah,
hero's journey is. Until you act on it, like you really don't know who you are.
mm,
Um, man, this is life. This literally is life. And the reason, I think two things. One, the reason we're seeing a lot of adolescent apathy and anxiety we talked about is because a lot of them don't know who they are going into these stressful situations, into the stressors of life, the inherent stressors of life. This is just my belief, my theory, based on all the work that I do. They don't know how to meet when rubbed the wrong way.
mm.
Um, that's the first thing. The second thing is, I forgot, and that's all right. That's all
There
right.
is a second thing. Maybe we go to a commercial break,
There's
Marcus.
so many things. Well, if you're joining us just now, I know we have one viewer on YouTube. You get point your camera if you're on a laptop, not on your mobile. Scan the QR code, get an advanced reader. I'll say this: we've been working on part one, and even part one has shifted in making it more detailed, more colored, setting up for the payoff in part three. Like we've defined more of the arc that you can get an advanced reader copy now, and we're gonna launch it in September. But for now, we're doing these podcasts to help you come home to who you are. Boom.
Yeah, there you go. So, did your second point come back to you?
Mark, there's so many points, and you know what? I don't listen to make a point. I because I'm present to listen,
Yeah,
and if
yeah,
the points will always be there.
yeah, yeah. So this is maybe a good time to wrap up.
Yeah, beautiful time.
I feel like it's been beautiful. A lot of great stories and insights. As always, coming through. Shall we set up for chapter 14 next week?
Yeah, next week we are. This is not spoiler, but it's. I mean, you're gonna go through the whole book with us anyhow. It's Professor Amar as he leaves. How will his absence shape his relationship with Kenna, Rosie, and Alex? How will the friend group? This is a protagonist friend group. How will they continue on? This is their Gandalf, right? In Lord of the Rings, when Gandalf breaks off. Mm. Will they continue to find his vision, or will they make his vision his own? Because what is his vision, right?
Mm.
Oh, I remember what the second point is. Um, and they have divided priorities. Alex is a businessman, Rosie is a creative, and Kenna is a humanitarian who's also an engineer. So how will they respond to Amar leaving? The thing that I did want to say was I'm looking forward. I'm curious. I'm anticipating. I see my agency. I love this book. I'm looking forward to what the age of AI will bring when we see a lot of this knowledge work, a lot of ways in which we felt productive as a society. It's like, what are we producing for? There's consumption and there's opulence, but it's like, okay, once you reached all that, like, what is this about? When I said this is life, yeah, we will
Mm.
run into problems, but also this is life. It is about serving other people. And when I say serving other people, it is about caring for other people.
Mm.
If you don't see yourself in a servant role, but it is about taking care of other people.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen, right? The more that our standard of living goes
We'll
up,
see.
the
Go on.
more that we're living in a world of abundance, if that is indeed where technology is going to take us, the more we're going to be asking ourselves deeper questions on our humanity and our purpose in life, and stepping into a place of service. I think that is the natural evolution. So
It I, we okay. May I make a point and then we end or
we have, yeah.
thank you. Okay. It's interesting. We oftentimes don't take the option of care because of fear, scarcity of resource. I
Hmm.
wonder if we reach a level of opulence of so much that we're forced to care for other people
Hmm.
because there's some people who don't take that care even though they have everything. And it's just
Hmm.
like after you know yourself, the second thing that the Delphi says is everything in what how does it say? The word is enough, but nothing in excess. That's what it says.
Hmm.
Nothing in excess.
Hmm.
When is enough? Or like when do you reach enough that you say I'm satisfied? Can I bring other people into this fulfillment, this contentment, this satisfaction?
Hmm.
Anyhow.
Beautiful question to stay with, Marcus, for the next week.
All right. For those who are watching, thank you for joining us. This is Marcus.
Yeah, thank you so much from Mark,
All right.
and we'll see you in a week.
In a week's time. Be
Bye
blessed.
bye.
Peace.